This review covers the Revell 1968 Dodge Charger RT. It's a 125 scale kit from Revell, again, and it's kit number 85-4202. It's rated as a skill level 3, but I'd say that's pushing it with the drag car version here because of the decals. I'd say it's more of a level 4 for the intermediate builder. Now this is a 2-in-1 kit in the Special Edition series, which was originally issued in 2008 and then reissued a couple times, most recently in 2016. Now the 68 Charger was the first of a second generation of cars in that series, and the silver, by the way, was pretty rare at the time, and it actually cost you a little extra. So this is kind of a special version of that vehicle. Now the Mopars were nicely finished out in the engine compartment and underneath, which were painted body color often, and sometimes undercoated. But that would have added weight for a drag car, so it probably would not have been done for this particular vehicle. There's 181 parts molded in white, chrome, clear, and clear red, and the tires are solid vinyl with no sidewall script, but there are redline decals for the street version. This kit can be built both stock or as a drag car version, which was our choice for this review. And there were no major issues with the kit, although it is, older molding technology. It came along after the first issues. So when it's completed, your kit measures about 8¼ inches long, 2¼ inches high, and 3 inches wide. Here are the parts to build the kit. As you can see, there's a lot of pieces in this kit. Now it's got a nice chrome tree, and it's pretty good chrome plating there. It's not too thick, not too thin on both the trees there. And also you see the wide slicks for the drag version, the clear glass, and some transparent red for the taillights, etc. The rest of the parts are in pretty good shape for their age, and although this is an out-of-production kit, they were pretty well kept up because they kept reissuing the model. Here are the decals with the kit, and they are very nicely done. Obviously the register is very good, the colors are just great, a lot of graphics for the drag version, but looking at these you can tell some are very small and some are very large, and that makes it a little difficult sometimes for a non-experienced modeler to build. So I would again say this is generally a model for the intermediate builder. Even those red lines are sometimes tricky to apply, and you'll be needing to use some setting solution for some of the large decals to conform to the body panels and get into the crevices of the panels themselves. We'll also be supplanting some of the kit decals, especially for the gauges, with some really nice images from best model car parts. They're just a little more visible, and you can see them more clearly from through the windows. This review is brought to you in part by Ryder's Hobby Shops, where the fun begins. Stop in to one of Ryder's 2 convenient Michigan locations, where you'll find a full range of the latest hobby products, supplies, parts, tools, and paint. You'll find aisles and aisles of scale model kits, RC models, model rockets, Warhammer gaming, and railroading products. Stop in at Ryder's today and tell them Doug sent you. Construction starts with the motor or the engine there, and because this is drag version, we're going to modify the fan belt system by removing the power steering pump and associated parts and belt there. This is the 440 part, but the the pulley system is the same pretty much for the 426 as well. This is a nicely detailed engine, and as you can see, we've got some gloss black on the belts, the fan, the air cleaner there, but you can also see got aluminum manifold, a steel transmission, and the Hemi orange paint for most of it, flat black heads, and high heat headers. A model all by itself, this multi-piece engine looks great. You can see it on the stand here, and it's a pretty good representation of the old big block Mopar engine. So Once you get done with this, you'll be happy to drop it into the engine bay. There's a bonus assembly in this kit. As you can see, a nicely detailed engine stand, which looks very much like the real thing that we used to use for pulling these things in the garage. And here you see the floor pan, the firewall, and the pedals painted in drag colors. There's a piece that's not normally found in your car kits, and that's a brace for the rear seat area. That's to maintain the structural rigidity there of the floor pan back in that area and give it some strength for torsion. Now we can glue that set of pedals to the footboard there, and as you can see, it also includes the parking brake, a parking brake foot pedal too. Gather up the parts for the seat, the dash, the interior pieces, and the door panels, and as they are all separate, it's a lot easier to detail them. You can see they've been painted semi-gloss black. The steering wheel's got a walnut rim and some chrome spokes that have lighteners in them. So go ahead and paint this up and get them ready to assemble. On the kit supplied decal sheet, there's decals for the main gauges, and likewise they would just be cut out and glued to the dash, but the aftermarket printed gauges we showed you will also include the smaller gauges and the radio. So we drill out the small gauge hole locations, and then you can apply those printed gauges to the back side so that they're the same level as the larger ones. Now here you see the completed interior. You can put the seats together and add those along with the dashboard and the completed column. And also don't forget to include the roll bar there, which has a molded in fire extinguisher on it. So detail the roll bar in some metallic color and add some red to the fire extinguisher. Next we'll start prepping the body, and there's some minor mold lines, parting lines, and there's also a brace in the engine compartment that you'll have to remove. Now oddly, there's no molded on emblems or side marker lights, so the decals have been provided to replace those. And where you see these red lines across the tops of the fenders and down the back side, you'll have to, like I said, clean those up with a little sandpaper or scrape off the ridges and clean them up nicely. And then we're going to give it a nice coat of light primer, and then we're going to paint the body and install the glass. After the paint has dried, we're going to install those pesky decals, which really look great. Remember to use a lot of warm water and some setting solution. And we're going to continue on and paint the interior there flat black for the roof and the edges, where you would see inside, and put the glass into place with some white glue. And now it's time to add the engine to the chassis plate. And by the way, that was painted body color underneath. And the interior gets mounted in there first after the windows are dry. And then we're going to wiggle the chassis and the mounted engine into position, and then you might have you just remove, or I should say separate the body panels a little bit to get that chassis wiggled up into position. Next we'll gather up the four pieces for the radiator and the core support, and we're going to paint that body silver along with the radiators and the shroud, which have been painted a semi-gloss black. And this is how the radiator and the core support and those pieces are placed into position. Well, here are the front suspension pieces. Some of them are painted steel color, and the other, of course, the semi-gloss black. And note too the red arrow though that points to one of the shocks that are mounted. Normally you don't get front shocks in a model kit, but this one has them, and they're staggered shocks, so watch for that angle. And here you see a couple of pieces that, again, I won't be using. The drag cars don't usually use the front sway bar. They keep that off so you get more front end lift off the starting line, which transfers weight to the rear. Also, the batteries are generally stored in the trunk, so you wouldn't see it. So these will not be used. Here are the parts for the rear suspension. The leaf springs and the drive shaft are painted steel, and the other pieces are semi-gloss black along with the two-piece rear end there, which you'll assemble, and we'll set those aside to dry. And while those are drying, you see here a couple of pieces that we're going to use as spacer blocks in order to lower the suspension for wheel clearance of those large rear wheels. Here you see the front and the rear suspensions are both in place along with the drive shaft, and that needs to be inserted into the back of the transmission before you place that into position completely there at the rear end of the car with the suspension. And also note that the car's upside down, so when you do work on it and add these things, put a little soft cloth or tissue or something underneath there so you don't scratch the top of your car. Here are the parts that you'll need for the wheel assemblies. Now the tires are solid, so you're basically going to sandwich the inners and outers from each side around the retaining hub in there, which is meant so that your wheel can rotate. You don't glue that hub into place, you just trap it inside in between. Here are the completed wheel and tire assemblies, and you can see those big drag slicks up at the top. Now this is a nice looking set of tires and wheels, and you can also scuff the tread area, or at least the contact area on those great big slicks to add a little more realism to what looks like a tire that would have been on the road. So go ahead and place the wheels into position on the hubs, and if you were careful putting the knuckles in on the front end, you have posable wheels there so that they are allowed to oscillate. And they're a pretty good looking set here. As you can see, they're pretty well matched to the period, and the nice slicks fit just perfectly inside the wheel wells there in the rear. Now it's time to add the parking lights to the front valence and glue that into place, and then add the grille. And note that the grille was blacked out with some black wash, which is 50-50 paint and thinner. And then you can also add the emblem decal to the grille there for the RT. Now we can move to the back end of the body, and the center of the rear body panel there is blacked out with an emblem decal that's added, and there are backup lights in the indentation where the tail lights are mounted. And don't forget to detail paint those before the tail lights are put into place. Add the license plate to the bumper, and then the bumper to the body, and remember you've got to scrape that chrome off before you glue pieces together that have it, or they won't stick. Now we'll add some underhood parts. You see here, of course, the radiator hose, that's flat black. The master cylinder and booster then too are painted with a gold tone for the the master cylinder top, and the steel colors for the booster. Now the hinges then are added to the hood along with the scoop for the drag version. And I had put the scoop into position before spraying it flat black, so it had a good continuous monotone. Another perk for these special edition kits, in this case the hood hinges are actually functional. They actually allow the hood to be posed in the up or down position and stay in place. Now we'll finish up construction with some of the chrome pieces that are added to the exterior. You see here the door handles and the fuel filter to be added. Now you'll have to do some pretty careful scraping of that chrome in order to get raw plastic to glue together. And you need something other than model glue because the door handles attached to the on top of the decals. So use a little bit of I would call it a medium CA type super glue to put those into place. With all the options for this kit, even though it's a 2-in-1, there are a lot of pieces left over because you get complete sets of options. And so these are the pieces that I had left, including a different hood. There's of course the back seat, all the drag parts that were not added to this particular version of the kit. Well, there you have it. Your model is complete, and what a gorgeous example this is going to be if you finish this thing and put it on your display shelf. It has excellent decaling, I think, for a 2-in-1 kit. And especially they made a lot of detail attention given to the drag version, and I'm not sure that that's what most of these kits were built as, but I'm going to guess probably more than 90%, because it is a real head turner. You go ahead and finish this and you'll be proud of it. It's not a hard kit to build. The only thing that's any kind of difficulty really is the decaling, and that just means you'll have to use a little extra patience and a lot of warm water to put it into position, and then maybe some setting solution to get the door panels to, show through, etc. But if I were you, I'd buy one and put it on my shelf.
Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet.